Thank you so much for joining us in our conference today.
Thank you for having
And
me.
yes, thank you for being here. Although you cannot physically be here, we still wanted to make sure that by having your lens as a university professor
Mhm.
at the University of Missouri St. Louis, I really value your interactions with, by now the audience knows that you are one of my teachers.
Yes.
And with that, I really wanted to have your lens and perspective. Principal Young just shared with us what he experiences as a building leader. I wanted to consider from your perspective what supports must be in place for higher education faculty to respond meaningfully to the needs surfaced by leaders like Principal Young.
Mhm. I think the main thing that is needed is just like we have to build relationships with each other and keep that line of communication open, which I'm not 100% sure is happening right now, which kind of alludes to some of the issues Principal Young was speaking about. And so like as I reflect on like my role as a professor, I think about some of the conversations and things that I participate in, and most of my feedback and the things that I do to structure my coursework comes from the students that I work with. Um, and kind of like their needs, like almost like a need-based curriculum or needs-based syllabus. And I'm not sure that there is a structured way in which schools or districts, I mean, and I don't want to speak broadly for every school or university and every school district. I'm just reflecting on my experience, and I don't recall that really being outside of like organizing student teaching opportunities or like your field experiences prior to. I don't know that there is a like a grand sweeping structured way in which that's happening. I do know that there are touch points throughout the programming where, you know, when universities are looking for placements for student teachers, and when universities are looking for experience, like field experiences for their pre-service teachers, there surely are some conversations. And I also like having been in buildings as a school leader and even in districts as a district leader, I've not seen a really consistent or succinct way in which that happens. And that may be the answer to that question. Like, I just think understanding how the classroom has changed over time and what schools are really looking for from their teachers is really important. Because, as a professor, like, because I also have a different job and like I work in schools and I, personally have contacts with school districts, I am aware, and I'm not sure how that is happening on a different scale, on a grander scale, in a more systemic way to make sure that pre-service teachers are getting exactly what they need to prepare them for the classroom.
And if I can build on that too, one of the other parts that I'm thinking about is specifically that feedback loop. How might faculty professional development be reimagined when guided by school-based feedback loops? How might that look like?
Yeah, I think if schools, like schools and districts, or even like at the state level, DESE, and other like educational entities who are developing feedback loops, if like it's almost like when you give a classroom, a student in the classroom, a rubric for a project or for a piece of writing. Like if we know what to look for, then we can know what to aspire to, right? So if schools and districts were to share those feedback loops and almost like a rubric style of what teachers are being required to do or asked to do, then the professors can know what to teach into, and students can be more aware of what their expectations are going to be as a teacher in the future. And so I think just right now, it's almost like a mystery, you know? Professors are often like, even like myself, are like former teachers who, are passionate about the work and come back and become professors. And what the classroom used to look like when I was there is not what it looks like anymore. Now, I also have the privilege of working in classrooms in a different capacity and working with teachers in a different capacity. And it also has changed over the last 10 years. And so the real work, it looks very different. Like, we can talk about the Piaget and the Vygotsky and we can talk about all of the theorists and all of the theories and all of that. I don't want to say it's not useful. It is useful. And it goes out of the window when you're in a room of 25 kids who all need your attention in different ways at the same time. And so when, again, like making that education much more practical, because I can talk about all of the theorists, I can talk about the design of a lesson plan, I can talk about all of those things. And when you are standing in front of 10-year-olds and you have to make quick decisions, or when you are setting up for conferences, you are not thinking about Lev Vygotsky. Like, that's not what you're thinking about. So it just, while those pieces are important, just really digging into the practicality of it all, like how to interact with parents, how to interact with teachers, highlighting the number of decisions you have to make in a day, highlighting how to problem solve, highlight, like those types of things are really going to be much more practical. And, I think the schools and the districts and those who actually work within those facilities and institutions, sharing with the higher ed institutions as we prepare teachers is going to be very valuable. Like, this is what we really need from our teachers. This is the kind of teacher we're looking for. These are the type of situations, like even if they were to like draw up a series of case studies or something, just making it a lot more realistic, around what educators face on a day-to-day in the classroom would be helpful for the college professors, because then we could dig into the actual work and teach into the skills that teachers will really need when they get into the classroom.
Thank you for that. This
Yeah.
one will be the last question. How can educators of educators seek to be more culturally responsive?
I think just realizing that we're all different anyway in the first place. Like, I think about like my group of friends. So, like, fun fact, when you think about your circle of people, if you think about the 5 people you're closest with, the people you can call at midnight and vent and cry to, 9 times out of 10, those people have more things in common with you than not. It's like, I think about my circle of best friends, and we're all Black women. We're one Black man. We're all African American. 3 of them are women. 1 is a man. 2 are educators. Like, we all have a ton in common, right? And even within those commonalities that we have, the way we do things in our day to day are so different. They're just different. And so, just keeping in mind that we all have really unique perspectives is important, and more important when you meet people who are not like you. And so we want to have opportunities for people to be comfortable, to be authentic and share their experiences, and then lean into empathy so that when they're in the classrooms, they can do those same things. And that really is a skill. And I do believe empathy can be taught, but it's something that we have to explicitly teach. And we can do that by sharing our own stories and our own experiences, and then kind of like providing a lens for like where we're coming from and then where other people are coming from. That's why I think case studies are so valuable as well. If schools were to provide case studies about things and problems they've had to solve and how they would want teachers to engage with those types of issues, that would be really, really helpful. I think about like when I was student teaching, like I did have some very unique experiences that I can share with my student in the pre-service teacher space as we prepare teachers. Like, those are conversations we can have, and like a situation I can bring to the table and say, how would you solve this problem, to provide them with more access, like providing space for us to like dialogue about them and problem solve about them from different angles, from everyone's different experiences. And when you talk about culture, like there are things that people value in different ways, which do impact how they make decisions on a day to day. So that is true for the educator, and incredibly true for the students we encounter as well, because as educators, we're adults and we've developed at least a vocabulary for explaining some of our feelings and thoughts, where a lot of times, depending on where your students are, they may not have. Like for me, I've been an elementary educator, and so like you're talking about, sorry, my dog is squeaking his toy. As an elementary educator, oftentimes they don't have the vocabulary to say, I feel like I'm being marginalized, but they will say, my teacher doesn't like me. And so being able to see things from a different perspective is very important. And I think that is how we attack those issues and lean into teaching into culturally responsiveness and being culturally relevant when we go into those classroom spaces. That was a really long-winded answer, but I hope I've reached what you were looking for.
No, exactly. And I know that even with being one of your students, one of the greatest methods that you use with us is providing case studies. So I appreciate you sharing that as a strategy, because not everyone will get that hands-on experience of having to go down the street because there's a gas leak. But being able to review a case study of a situation that has happened, I think that for educators, that reviewing case studies just to be more culturally aware of
Yeah.
different situations and apply that lens is definitely going to serve them. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for this
Welcome.
contribution.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah.